Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brooke Logan Forrester stood in Cedars-Sinai's glass-walled corridor, clutching the manila envelope delivered to her by the neurologist 10 minutes ago. The hallway smelled like bleach and lilies that had been left at the nurse's station. Her manicured fingers trembled violently, rattling the paper like dried leaves. She had come in for what she thought was a normal MRI, just a precaution after weeks of blinding migraines that no amount of Botox or Forrester-level denial could disguise. The words on the report began to blur together, but one phrase remained clear. 3.8 centimeters enhancing mass, left frontal lobe, suspicious for high-grade glioma. A tumor. She had a tumor on her brain. Her kneecaps buckled. A passing orderly grabbed her elbow and inquired whether she needed a wheelchair. She brushed him off with the same imperious flip she used to give designers who dared to bring her beige. She didn't require a wheelchair. She needed it to be a mistake. A cosmic joke. The scan was mislabeled. Anything but the truth, which was pounding behind her eyes with each heartbeat. Brooke stumbled into the women's lavatory, locked herself in the farthest stall, and eventually let the envelope fall to the tile floor. She placed her fingers on her temples, as if she could crush the thing inside her head with sheer willpower. The walls closed in. The fluorescent light hummed like a swarm of bees. Brooke Logan saw her reflection in the metal toilet paper dispenser, wild eyes, lipstick smeared, and, for the first time in decades, she didn't recognize the woman staring back. She thought, stupidly, of Ridge. Ridge, who had abandoned her again 6 months prior, this time for Taylor, because history is a circle that only the Forresters are too vain to break. Ridge, who still had a key to the mansion on the hill because certain habits are more difficult to quit than marriage. Ridge, who had glanced at her across the courtroom when Steffi testified against her and mouthed, "I'm sorry," as if those 2 words could mend a lifetime of wounds. Brooke needed him. God help her. She needed him now. She scrambled for her cell phone. Her fingers were numb, and autocorrect changed Ridge to Rude 3 times before she could type. "Can you come to Cedars?
Please go to the ER.
It is awful." She didn't wait for the 3 dots. She turned the phone face down on the sink and vomited into the toilet, leaving nothing but bile and the taste of panic. Ridge came 23 minutes later, dressed in the exact navy suit he'd worn when he left the office. Tie askew, hair still flawless since even panic couldn't undo decades of product. He discovered her seated on a plastic chair in the consultation room, legs crossed, as if she were waiting for a lunch reservation rather than a death sentence. "Brooke." His voice cracked at the second syllable. He sank to his knees in front of her, just as he had the night she miscarried their daughter years before. "Tell me." She attempted to talk, but couldn't. She just held out the report. He took it with hands that had drawn 1,000 gowns but now shook like an elderly man's. His eyes scanned the paper, and his lips moved slowly as he read the medical terminology. When he got to the term glioblastoma, his face turned ash. "No," he muttered. "No, no, no." He folded forward, resting his forehead on her knees. The sound that came out of him was not a sob, but rather something more primordial, like the moan a man makes when the universe rips the future from his chest. Brooke threaded her fingers through his hair, just like she had done 1,000,000 times before, when they made love, argued, pledged forever, and only meant it for 5 minutes. "I'm scared," she admitted. It was the first time she had revealed it to Ridge Forrester without ulterior motives. He raised his head. Tears traced a path through the day's stubble. "We're gonna fight this, Logan. Whatever it takes. MD Anderson, Switzerland, that clinic in Germany, whatever it takes." She let out a sad laugh. "You're already squandering my money." "Your money and mine are the same." "There never was," he said, cupping her face and stroking her cheekbones. "I am not losing you. Not again. Not like this." A nurse softly knocked, informing them that the neurosurgeon was ready. Ridge helped Brooke get to her feet. She swayed. He caught her and pressed her against his chest so tightly that she could feel his heart hammering its way out to meet hers. In the corridor, they came across a mirror. Brooke noticed their reflection, Ridge half carrying her, both of them wrecked, and for a brief moment, she saw what the world had always seen, the golden marriage, tragic and beautiful even when broken. Dr. Patel, the neurosurgeon, was a young woman who made Brooke feel ancient while remaining calm enough to make her want to scream. She placed the scans on a light box, transforming Brooke's brain into a galaxy of shadows. Here, Dr. Patel stated, circling the bulk with a red dry erase marker. It is aggressive. It is located in the eloquent cortex, which includes language, personality, and motor control. Surgery carries significant risk. We could take 70%, maybe even 80%, but there's a chance you'll wake up unable to talk or move your right side. Radiation and chemotherapy can buy time, but the typical survival rate for GBM is stop. Ridge's voice slashed through the room like a sword. Just tell us how to fix it. Dr. Patel's gaze softened. Mr. Forrester, there is no solution. There's management. There is hope, but it is not the type you seek. Brooke stared at the crimson circle that surrounded the invader in her head. It appeared that a full moon had eclipsed everything she was. They transported her to the ICU for observation that night, citing her seizure in the consultation room as a precaution. Ridge refused to leave. He sat in the vinyl recliner beside her bed, still dressed in the navy suit that was now wrinkled beyond repair, gripping her hand as if it were the only thing keeping him grounded on the planet. At 2:17 a.m., the paternity results have arrived. Ridge had ordered the test weeks earlier, following Bill Spencer's smug admission that he could be Hope's father after all these years of deception. The lab had accelerated it when Ridge mentioned Forrester and threatened to buy the entire site. A lab technician in scrubs delivered the sealed packet with the solemnity often reserved for religious artifacts. Ridge looked at it for a long time. Brooke was asleep, pumped full of Keppra and Ativan, her face limp in a way that made her look 90 rather than 59. The machines beeped a mechanical lullaby. He tore open the package with his teeth. The paper within was crisp, authoritative, and final. The probability of paternity is 99.9998%. William Spencer, Jr. Ridge made no sounds. He simply folded the paper into a small square that disappeared in his fist. Then, he placed his head on the bed beside Brooke's hip and grieved in a way he hadn't since his mother died, silent, shoulder-shaking cries that saturated the thin hospital blanket. He grieved for the little child who used to call him Daddy. He grieved for the woman struggling for her life 6 inches away. He cried because the cosmos thought that one calamity every day was insufficient. Brooke stirred around 4:05 a.m. The medications had worn off sufficiently that the pain returned, a hot poker writhing behind her left eye. She discovered Ridge asleep sitting up, his hand still wrapped around hers, and the paternity report crumpled on the floor like trash. She knew what it stated before she ever took it up. She had always known, deep down, the way a mother recognizes her child's cry in a room full of newborns. She touched Ridge's hair. Ridge. He awoke immediately, as parents do. I am here. What do you need? Water? Pain medication? I need you to forgive me. Her voice was scratchy from the tube doctors had inserted during the seizure. For everything. For Deacon Bill and for every time I let you down. I need you to forgive me before. Stop. He placed his finger on her lips. There's nothing to forgive. There never was. That's not true, and we both know it. He gently held her face in his hands again, this time with the 4 in her neck. Then listen to me. I've loved you through every mistake. I'll love you through this, too. Hope is yours. She's ours. Paper doesn't change that. Tears streamed down her temples and into her hair. I don't want to die, Ridge. You're not going to die. I might. He pressed his forehead against hers. Then I'll come with you. Because I'm done living in a world without Brooke Logan. The monitors beeped. Outside the window, Los Angeles sparkled as if nothing bad was happening on the 8th story. Brooke begged, stay with me. I never left, he said. And for the first time in years, she trusted him. Morning arrived dreary and reluctant. Thomas arrived first, his eyes inflamed and clutching a sketch pad that he would never use. Steffi followed, face etched from stone, until she noticed her father holding Brooke's hand and something in her split wide open. Hope arrived last, mascara running down her cheeks as she clutched the paternity report she discovered in the trash outside the room. She said nothing about it. She simply crawled onto Brooke's other side of the bed and rested her head on her mother's shoulder, just like she had done when she was 5 years old and terrified of thunder. Ridge met Hope's gaze across Brooke's body. No words, just a nod that said, family. Whatever the DNA indicates, family. Dr. Patel returned with the surgical team. They had to make a decision. Either operate tomorrow or begin palliative radiation and let the tumor run its course. Brooke stared at the people gathered around her bed. Ridge, Hope, Thomas, and Steffi. Enemies and allies merged into a trembling circle of affection. She squeezed Ridge's hand. Cut it out of me, she stated. I'm not done yet. Ridge kissed her knuckles, leaving a diamond-shaped tear behind. That's my Logan. At 11:47 a.m., they wheeled her away. Ridge went alongside the gurney until the double doors closed between them. He stood there long after she had left, palms pushed against the metal as if he could still reach through and grab her. In the waiting area, he finally allowed himself to collapse. Thomas held him up on one side and Steffi on the other. Hope stood alone, staring at the paternity findings, which she still held like a death warrant. 8 hours later, Dr. Patel emerged, mask drooping and face unreadable. Ridge rushed to his feet. Tell me. We got 92%, she answered. More than we had hoped. She's recovering. It's going to be a long road, speech therapy, radiation, chemo, but she woke up asking for you. Ridge's knees buckled. Thomas caught him before he touched the ground. Brooke's eyes opened in the recovery room, revealing a world that felt too bright and loud. Her tongue was thick and slick. Ridge crouched over her, tears streaming down her face like rain. Hey, gorgeous. She tried to grin. It turned out crooked. Did we win? Not yet, he said softly, caressing her forehead, eyes, and the tip of her nose. But we will. Behind him, Hope grabbed Brooke's left hand. Steffi turned right. Thomas stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed to keep from collapsing. Brooke looked at everyone, her divided, outraged, terrible family, and managed the words she had never said before. I love you, she rasped. All of you. Ridge gingerly got onto the bed with her, avoiding tubes and cables, and hugged her in the same manner he had the first night they spent together. Two kids who thought passion meant forever. Outside, Los Angeles continued to swirl, with scandals developing, gowns ready to be designed, and empires rising and falling. Time halted within the ICU room. There was only the beep of monitors, the whisper of oxygen, and the quiet, steadfast heartbeat of a woman who had finally decided she was worth saving, and the man who had never believed otherwise. Brooke had been accustomed to life surprise her, but never like this, never with the kind of horror that arrived softly on a gloomy Tuesday morning in the sterile quietness of a doctor's office. She went in expecting a typical follow-up, something basic and forgettable. A persistent headache and mild dizziness, symptoms she dismissed as weariness. But as soon as the doctor placed the scans on the light board, anything resembling normal disappeared. She didn't recall sitting down, but she must have. The doctor's voice rushed over her in fragments. Abnormal growth. Needs further evaluation. Likely benign, but pressing on critical tissue. Specialist. Hospital admission. She heard herself whisper the word tumor, as if naming it would reduce it and deprive it of its power. She tried to calm her breathing, but the air was too sharp and thin. Her hands shook uncontrollably, and for a brief minute, she felt as if she was outside her own body, watching someone else unravel. The drive home was a haze. At red lights, she stared straight ahead, eyes unfocused, as memories flashed past them. Her children as babies, vacations, heartbreaks, successes, her entire life compressed into a fragile reel. Everything now felt fleeting. Everything felt threatened. She did not inform anyone right away. She could not. The words hung thick and heavy in her throat, refusing to be said. But secrets have weight, and this one crushed against her chest like an anchor. Ridge realized she couldn't keep it hidden much longer as she went inside the house that evening. He noticed as soon as he saw her. Brooke was rarely pale or quiet, and her silence spoke louder than any confession. "Logan,"
He spoke softly.
"what is going on?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out except a half-sigh, half-sob. Ridge moved across the room quickly, hands on her shoulders, steady and warm. That warmth broke her. Tears flowed uncontrollably. She sank into him, as if her bones could no longer support her. "There's something wrong," she muttered, choking on her words. "They discovered something in my head. A tumor." His body froze, his heart pounding against her cheek. She sensed it. She felt him take the hit. Ridge had been through many crises, but nothing, not even their years of adversity, had prepared him for the prospect of losing her. He gripped her closer, as if by sheer force he could protect her from the diagnosis. "We'll get through this. Whatever it takes, you're not doing this alone," he added, but she could feel his worry. It radiated from him, wordless yet powerful. The following days were spent in hospitals, having scans and consultations. She found herself sleeping in a small white room, surrounded by fluorescent lights and the hum of equipment. Nurses moved around her, gently but efficiently. The world outside continued to whirl, but within that frigid enclosure, time thickened like honey. The specialist's assessment was urgent. "We need to operate," he remarked.
"Soon."
"The symptoms will worsen as the pressure increases." The word rang in her head. Headaches, dizziness, fainting spells. These were just the beginning. Ridge never left her side when she was sent to the intensive care unit for monitoring. Not once. He roamed the corridor, chatted with doctors, asked updates, contacted her children, and attempted to be strong for everyone. But tension had chiseled itself into him, leaving creases on his forehead and a tightness around his jaw. She awoke more than once to find him seated by her hospital bed, elbows on knees, palms covering his eyes as he fought back sobs. She had always known he cared profoundly, but seeing him like this, raw, protective, terrified, hurt her more than the diagnosis itself. What she did not expect was the second blow, which coincided with the first, the DNA report. It arrived unexpectedly, in a sealed packet Ridge had not planned to open in front of her. It was part of a long-running problem involving concealed suspicions, familial problems, and unresolved anguish. Ridge had pursued this quietly and secretly, never expecting the results to come on the darkest day of their lives. The envelope lay on the small ICU table, unnoticed amid the hubbub, until Brooke discovered it. She moved it closer, her fingertips caressing the edge. "What is this?" she inquired softly. Ridge hesitated, shame blazing across his gaze. "Something I should have handled sooner. Something I should not have brought here." She could see his turmoil. "Open it," she whispered.
He did.
The paper trembled in his palms. His breath caught. Then came a silent, tragic moment when his eyes filled and spilled. Uncontrollable tears streamed down his face. Brooke had rarely witnessed him weep. Ridge was many things, emotional, certainly, but rarely undone. This was different. He clasped one palm to his mouth, his shoulders trembling. The report slid from his fingertips and landed on the floor. "Ridge," she whispered. "What is it?" He was unable to speak at first. With a broken voice, he said, "The test is true. Something I never want to believe. Something that changes everything." He hid his face, unwilling to meet her gaze. "And I'm finding out today, of all days today." Brooke did not pick up the paper.
She did not need to.
Whatever truths the report contained, whatever history it revealed, could wait. All she saw, all she cared about, was Ridge buckling under the weight of something awful and intimate, which he'd attempted to bear alone. She reached a shaking hand to touch his wrist. "Look at me." He did so unwillingly. "I'm still here," she replied softly. "I am scared, but I am here. And you're here. That's what matters right now." Ridge nodded, but the tears continued. It wasn't just the DNA results, it was everything. Fear of losing her. A rush of helplessness. The unexpected clash of the past and present. He leaned over the bed, softly brushing his forehead on hers. I cannot lose you, Logan. I can't. She closed her eyes and leaned into his warm embrace. You won't. However, the nights became more difficult. At midnight, the ICU was strangely quiet, dim lights, buzzing monitors, and whispers from nurses passing by. Brooke lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the hum of machines matching the pulse in her ears. Fear coiled in her stomach, hot and thick. She'd had emotional, romantic, and personal struggles before, but never one that practically buried itself inside her body, endangering her future, memories, and ability to see the people she cared about. She found herself thinking about her children. Every milestone, disagreement, every embrace. She reflected on all the things she hadn't spoken, the apologies she still owed, and the memories she wanted to build. She remembered Ridge, who was sleeping in the chair beside her, head tilted, exhausted.
He seems older tonight.
Not in a weakened sense, but in a way that demonstrated how strongly he felt everything. When he awoke, their eyes met. Are you okay? He whispered.
No, she confessed.
But I'm trying. He grabbed for her hand. She had no idea how chilly her fingers were until his was wrapped around them, warm and solid. We're doing this together, he explained. No matter how hard it gets.